The Council on American-Islamic Relations is having an identity crisis, it seems. CAIR, as it is known, touts itself as a mainstream civil rights organization for Muslim Americans. Ask its leaders, like Los Angeles Chief Hussam Alouche, about Hamas and other terrorist groups, and they quickly grow defensive.
Doesn't matter. Anyone who engages in the harming of civilians, of innocent people, is condemned. But as a civil rights organization, we're not here in the business of being dragged into the Middle East affairs and the conflicts of the Middle East. We represent American Muslims. We don't represent Muslims around the world.
So you personally will not condemn Hamas?
Don't play wars with me. I'm not a naive person.
CAIR must think the rest of the world is naive then, or it has suddenly decided to change its professed core mission. In a rare moment of candor captured by the Investigative Project on Terrorism, CAIR's top official in Detroit told a rally July 31st that CAIR's mission is not limited to what Alouche says. Daoud Walid spoke outside a court hearing for Razmia Oda, a Palestinian woman accused of hiding her role in a 1969 bombing attack at a Jerusalem grocery that killed 2 people when she applied to become a U.S. citizen.
Also understand that for those of you who are maybe wondering why at CAIR we would be concerned about this, it's not just because of Razmia's individual case or us being defenders of the Palestinian struggle.
Defenders of the Palestinian struggle. That's not something you'll find on CAIR's website. When the conflict in Gaza broke out in July, CAIR and its leaders leaped into action. They co-sponsored rallies and provided phone numbers for supporters to contact Congress and the White House. What they never did was call on Hamas to stop firing rockets at Israeli civilians or to demand Hamas agree to any of the numerous ceasefire proposals Israel accepted. Instead, they demanded the United States change policy toward Israel. Masking this pro-Hamas terrorism agenda under the guise of Muslim American civil rights advocacy, federal prosecutors say, is what CAIR was deliberately and specifically born to do when it was founded 20 years ago as the new facade for a more blatantly pro-Hamas group that already existed. Internal records seized in FBI raids show that upon its creation, CAIR was listed among members of something called the Palestine Committee. The Palestine Committee was created by the Muslim Brotherhood to help Hamas politically and financially in America. Members of that committee felt they needed additional cover to do so.
قلب طيب عمرنا ما فكرنا نخدع عدو الحرب خدعة اخدع موه اعمل حالك ماشي وانت ماشي هناك تكملة الحرب.
In this key historic video, the now executive director of CAIR, Nihad Awad, professes his support for Hamas quite clearly. This was 1994, the same year CAIR was founded.
I used to support the PLO, and I used to be the president of the General Union of Palestine Students, which is part of the PLO here in the United States. But after I researched the situation inside Palestine and outside, I'm in support of the Hamas movement more than the PLO, not because Hamas is disruptive and involved in violence. No. I know that this movement, as an Islamic movement, has not been objectively reported in the United States.
Nihad Awad, seen a moment ago urging people to call the White House to protest what was happening in Gaza, is included on the Palestine Committee's telephone list. The evidence linking CAIR to Hamas was so compelling that the FBI decided to cut off all outreach contact with CAIR in 2008. An assistant director wrote this letter to a U.S. senator explaining, until we can resolve whether there continues to be a connection between CAIR or its executives and Hamas, the FBI does not view CAIR as an appropriate liaison partner. The policy remains in effect 6 years later. And yet, Palestine Committee members keep covertly popping up in media coverage of terrorism hotspots as just average Palestinians, albeit outside the United States.
Yesterday was also targeted, but there was building minor damages.
Basman al-Ashi's name appeared just over Nihad Awad's on the U.S. Palestine Committee phone list. Al-Ashi was deported in 2012 after being convicted and serving time for illegally sending money to Hamas political leader Musa Abu Marzouk. And like Awad, Al-Ashi still serves the cause, albeit closer to the front lines. That's Al-Wafa Hospital in Gaza, being bombed by Israeli military forces after Hamas gunmen were observed firing from within the building. Those secondary explosions, the Israelis say, show rockets and other weapons were being stored inside. When reporters wanted to talk to someone about the damage, it was Basman al-Ashi who stepped forward. It turns out he's been Al-Wafa's executive director since being deported from America. Israel says that, in addition to seeing the firing coming from within the hospital itself was being used as a Hamas command center. CAIR's Nihad Awad has plenty of criticism about the war, but none of it targets Hamas for putting people in harm's way or for initiating the conflict with incessant rocket fire at Israeli civilians. In a Twitter post he felt comfortable making only in Arabic, he praised unified Palestinian forces, a reference to Hamas and other terrorist factions, since the Palestinian Authority stayed out of the conflict, and he praised the sacrifices of the martyrs. That sentiment makes CAIR's support for Razmia Oda much easier to understand. There's no civil rights violation in prosecuting her. She's accused of concealing a terrorism conviction, one connected with a bombing attack that killed 2 people in a grocery store, on immigration papers which helped determine if she deserved to be an American citizen. To CAIR, Oda is just another martyr for the cause.
It's not just because of Razmia's individual case or us being defenders of the Palestinian struggle.